Swinging a ground ball, stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first, and the Boston Red Sox are the world champions. For the first time in 86 years, the Red Sox have won baseball's world championship. Can you believe it?
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tyler, and this is the Fenway Files, and we are 3 weeks into the 2025 baseball season. And boy, let me tell you, it has been a rough 3 weeks. Now, if you listened to last week's episode, I was very, very optimistic with how the Red Sox were doing. Well, that took about another week for my entire opinion of the Boston Red Sox to completely change. Well, I can't say completely change. The Red Sox have a significant problem being extremely mediocre. They're not the worst team in baseball, and they don't play the best baseball that you can play. They always find a way to be exactly 500 one way or another. And I think there was a stat out there I saw last year where it was like, since the Mookie Betts trade, the Red Sox have won the exact same number of games that they have lost. Last year, we finished exactly 500. The last 10 games the Red Sox have played, take a wild guess at what our record is. 500. Over the course of the last 10 games, we are 5-5. Now, the Red Sox won today in Chicago, thankfully, because getting swept by the Chicago White Sox would be really freaking embarrassing, but I don't want to jump ahead. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But if I seem like my spirits are down, that's because my spirits are down, because this team simply hasn't given me a good enough reason to believe in them. Not necessarily believe in them. I have faith in them. But they haven't given me a good enough reason to be like, oh my God, this team can win the division like I predicted. So we got a lot of stuff to cover today. I haven't came out with an episode since last Sunday, so we're going to be covering every game from Monday, including today's game. Thank God we won, but since last Monday, since a week from today, the Red Sox have won twice, right? We had a game Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 2 times. We are 2-5 this week, which is indicative of the way this team has played. So it's not necessarily like, oh, the ump cheated us or X, Y, and Z excuse, blah, blah, blah. We deserved to only win 2 games. And honestly, one of those 2 games we should not have won. But I will get into that in a little bit. So, like I said, we are 2-5 since last Sunday. Monday, embarrassing loss to the Toronto Blue Jays at home. We lost 6-2. Jose Barrios, like he always does against the Red Sox for some reason, shoved it right up our butts. And he didn't even ask permission first or use lube. He just raw dogged that, and it did not end well. Offensively for Toronto, who was the biggest culprit? Had 4 RBIs that game? George frickin' Springer. Again, because it's always George Springer that booty holes this damn team. Now, shout out to Jose Barrios really quickly. He did earn his 100th career victory against us. Only 4 players in the last decade have hit that 100 career win mark, and he is one of those 4. So shout out to him. That's not something that everybody does. How do we follow up Monday's embarrassing 6-2 loss? By losing 6-1 on Tuesday. Somebody who I don't follow the Toronto Blue Jays as closely as Toronto fans. Easton Lucas, I've never even heard of outside of conversations with family member. And we let him shove against us. I mean, our offense looked more dead than Tyler Milliken's dog bullet, and we all know how that goes. So, I mean, it was 26 degrees, feel like, on Tuesday, and our offense was colder than the temperature was at Fenway Park. So, I don't know what more we can do in that situation. I mean, it's like, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but we can't hit for, like, I can't even say it's been like, oh, hit or miss. Outside of, like, that St. Louis Cardinals series, we haven't been able to hit all season. And that might be more indicative of how horrible the Cardinals pitching staff is and not necessarily our offense. Wednesday, we lost 2-1 to Toronto in a very hard-fought, beautiful game. Now, one good thing came out of Wednesday. Tanner Houck pitched better than he has all season to this point, all of spring, and his entire second half. He looked like all-star game Tanner Houck. Now, he didn't have a high amount of strikeouts, and I think that's where the weather comes into play, because if your off-speed stuff isn't moving as much because you're having a hard time gripping onto that baseball, yeah, you're only going to have 2 strikeouts, but he only gave up 1 run in 7 innings. Like, if you were to tell me before the game, oh, Houck's going to go 7 strong with 1 earned run, I'm going to be like, sign me up. So, but again, where'd our offense go to? I mean, between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we scored 4 runs. During our home opener, we scored 5 in the first inning. So it's like we scored more runs in the home opener's first inning than this entire series up until this specific point. Now, aside from aside from Tanner Houck's great performance, our defense was also phenomenal on Wednesday, which I can't necessarily say about some of the other losses that I'm going to get to later on in the week. Now, Thursday's game is the only highlight of the week up until Thursday, between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, we won. We won 4-3 in a walk-off. I was at that game, so I can tell you a couple of things about that game. First of all, the atmosphere in Fenway was dead. I don't know what happened. I don't know if, like, I genuinely think it's coming into the series being really down, losing 3 straight to Toronto at home, it being like 35 degrees outside. I won't lie, not a lot of people were in the stands. A lot of Sox fans showed up, but I didn't really see that many Blue Jays fans. The game was at 4 o'clock, so maybe people were working. But, I mean, it was freezing. So I don't necessarily anticipate 40,000 people fitting into Fenway Park when it's 35, 40 degrees outside. So maybe that has part to play with it. But a couple of things, a couple of big takeaways I noticed from that game. Jared Duran looked like his usual self. When I say usual self, I mean like all-star last year type of season. He was on base a lot, stealing a lot of bags. He did get caught stealing, but honestly, he looks safe in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. And one thing that really caught me by surprise is Walker Buehler absolutely shoved the entire game. Now, Toronto scored 6 runs Monday and Tuesday, and Garrett Crochet held them to Houck held them to 1 run on Wednesday. The fact that Walker Buehler held that potent lineup to 1 run through 6 innings was pretty incredible. Now, our defense did get into some trouble later on in the game, but I mean that's a common theme that I will get to later on in the podcast. I wrote a couple of notes. A lot of the Red Sox players were getting on base, but Jarren Duran stealing a lot of bags. The team itself is stealing a lot of bags, but it's really hard to steal bags if you're not on base. So, like, Ceddanne Rafaela can't utilize his speed if he's not hitting singles or doubles. David Hamilton, coming off the bench, that's awesome to pinch run, ends up being the winning run because of his speed. But if you're not in the lineup and you're not getting on base, how do you expect to utilize that speed? So maybe that's why Jarren Duran getting on base and using his speed sticks out so much to me. The other thing I noticed is that Aroldis Chapman basically looks like his former All-Star self. Now, of course, I jinxed it, and I'll get into his performance later on in the Chicago series, because that is an absolute fucking dumpster fire. But the last positive thing I really noticed from Thursday's game, and honestly this entire week as a whole, is Trevor Story finally looks healthy, and he looks like his former All-Star self. He was on base a lot. He was stealing bags. He looked great at the plate. Now, he did strike out a couple of times. He did also strike out earlier in the series with bases loaded. But, he got the game-winning hit. Now, Jimenez, the second baseman for Toronto, is arguably the best defensive second baseman we have had in baseball in probably the last 10 years. But when you have the bases loaded and Story puts a ball into play, which is something that this team struggles with, magic can happen. And Jimenez went to go ground the ball, throw it home, and he muffed it. And he basically ran past the ball, and that scored David Hamilton. Now, that, in my opinion, the Red Sox got very, very lucky. And that Thursday game honestly should have been the game that the Red Sox lost, meaning that they would have gotten swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. But we won. You got to count your victories where you get them, especially when you lose 2 out of 3 to the Chicago frickin' White Sox, which is what we're getting into next. Now, Friday. God, if I could erase this game from my memory, I would. There are a lot of really, really embarrassing losses in recent Red Sox history. 28-5 against the Toronto Blue Jays in 2022 comes to mind. I would put this embarrassing loss to the Chicago White Sox right behind it. Now, why is that so embarrassing? Well, for those of you who aren't aware, the Chicago White Sox broke an MLB record last season for becoming the worst statistical team in terms of wins and losses in the history of the sport. Now, that's last year. Well, guess who decided to do nothing in the offseason, get rid of their manager, and sell some of their key players, and arguably got worse? The Chicago White Sox. So when we come off of a walk-off win on Thursday, march into Chicago, and lose 11-1, yeah, it's going to be embarrassing. Now, why did we lose 11-1? Well, our defense cost us most of that game. You can argue that Sean Newcomb didn't have it. You wouldn't be wrong. But one thing that was different from his previous outing was that the defense was good the last time he was throwing the ball. They were not good this time. They gave up 5 errors, 4 of them after the 6th inning. I don't recall ever in my life the Red Sox giving up 5 errors in one game. So the fact that our defense is arguably the sole reason why we lost that game really stands out. And in my opinion, I think their defensive problem goes beyond the Boston Red Sox. I genuinely think that is a systemic problem among all levels. And I arguably would say it's the reason why Ceddanne Rafaela became so massive in center field and how he got his rise through the system so quickly. Because defense isn't something that I think we scout that great when it comes to players. If you look at the team as a whole right now, we have our outfield, which Jarren Duran was drafted. He was drafted for his offensive ability, and he has grown into a great defensive player. Now, the one downside with him is his arm strength sucks. That's been his number one flaw since he was a rookie. Ceddanne Rafaela, if you keep him in center field, could be a Platinum Glove winning center fielder, and I think On Wednesday, the game started with him basically dying in center field trying to go after a ball. And Willie Abreu, we traded Christian Vasquez for. Basically, like, we were giving the Astros Christian Vasquez for Willie Abreu, not really anticipating he would grow into the level of player he is now, where he's basically the best player in the American League, outside of Bobby Witt Jr. and Aaron Judge. When you look at the interior defense, catcher, first base, second, short, third, none of the players that we have there that we have drafted had great defensive capabilities. Connor Wong has stunk behind home plate. Now, I'll get into the injuries. I'm actually going to table that note. Tristan Casas has sucked defensively at first base since he broke out into the league. Our second baseman, Christian Campbell, is mediocre at best at second base. Trevor Story, we didn't draft Trevor Story. Okay. Xander Bogaerts, when we drafted him to play shortstop, was a phenomenal defensive shortstop. That was one of the great things about him, but he still had his issues at shortstop. Trevor Story is now there, and we hope that he can lock down that, middle part of the interior defense. Then we get to Alex Bregman, who was supposed to be arguably one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. And compared to Rafael Devers defensively, he is absolutely better. However, he was injured last season for a good part of the season with the Astros, and he ended up getting surgery over the offseason. Since the beginning of the season, he has 6 errors, which leads the team. Hopefully that doesn't become a trend, but I'm kind of scared that it is going to become a trend, because if Alex Bregman is going to start throwing the ball all over the infield like he did during Friday's loss, that's going to be a serious problem. And when you look at our farm system, Roman Anthony is not known for his defense. He is an offensive first outfielder. Marcelo Meyer is supposed to be a lockdown shortstop defensively, but that's about it. When you look at who else we have in our farm system, the defense does not stand out. And I genuinely think that it is a organizational problem where they don't incentivize defense, they incentivize home runs, they incentivize strikeouts in terms of like pitchers getting strikeouts or the 3 major outcomes to an at-bat: strikeout, ground out, or home run. Or, well, pop-up, you know what I mean. But when you look back at the 04 team, the 07 team, the 13 team, the 18 team, one thing stands out among all 4 of them, and it is our fantastic defensive capabilities. Anytime this team goes somewhere, it's with their defense. So the way that this team is playing defense really concerns me. And it is the reason why we lost on Friday. It's the reason why we lost on Saturday. It's the reason why we have lost basically every single game that we have lost outside of a couple. But hands down, Friday night's loss to the Chicago White Sox, coming off of a really hard-fought, fantastic game on Thursday, is simply embarrassing. And there's no excuses, no amount of, well, it was cold in Chicago. Guess what? It's cold in October, too. And if you want to win a goddamn World Series, you're going to need to learn how to play in the cold. So, figure it out. And Blake Sabol needs to be not only off the Red Sox, out of the organization, because the Chicago White Sox were running on him like he had both of his hands tied behind his back. Like, I have not seen a performance that bad from a Red Sox catcher in a very, very, very long time. Offensively, defensively, all around. I don't know why I know why he's on the team, because of an injury to Connor Wong. But I don't know why the Red Sox were like, oh, Sabol, come on over. We'll make a man out of you. The only thing that stands out about him is his ginormous nose, but that's besides the point. Saturday, we lost in extra innings because that's what the Red Sox do. We lost to the Chicago White Sox in extra innings. The White Sox, keep in mind, in 12 games before this series started, they were 2-10. Okay? They won 2 games in 12 days. Or, well, out of the 12 games they could play, or they did play, they won 2 games. The moment the Red Sox stroll into Chicago, they double their win total. They go from 2 wins to 4 wins, okay? That is frustrating when you should be arguably the biggest contender in the American League now that the Yankees are basically all crippled. And you let the Chicago White Sox stomp you out and win the series on a walk-off to some dude who wouldn't make the Major League roster on 29 other teams? We have to be better. And the reason why I said we jinxed it is because in the bottom of the 9th, guess who gave up the game-winning hit on a 92-mile-an-hour splitter that was right down the dick? Aroldis Chapman. Now, what really upset me about that at-bat, and this goes back to the catcher problem that the Red Sox have that I've been yapping about since spring training. He threw 2 consecutive 100-mile-an-hour plus fastballs to this guy on the White Sox, and he swung by both of them. Why on earth would you not just throw another? He showed you the entire at-bat that he can't hit your damn fastball. And Aroldis Chapman has the best fastball in baseball. Why are you going to take 8 miles an hour off your pitch and throw it right down the heart of the plate? Don't get me wrong. Maybe this particular player doesn't deserve to be on the Chicago or doesn't deserve to be on any other major league team besides the Chicago White Sox, but he is still a major league professional. You do not throw 92-mile-an-hour dick balls down the heart of the plate and expect to get out of the inning, especially when you have a guy on third base. Up and in, near his hands, he's not going to hit it. What does he do? Fucking hits it. So, if you combine Friday and Saturday of this past week, it is beyond frustrating. So, just to recap so far. Lose 3 out of 4 against Toronto. Lose that series. Lose this series to the Chicago White Sox. And our only hope going into Sunday was that Garrett Crochet was going to take the mound and absolutely shove it up the asses of the Chicago White Sox. Garrett Crochet just signed a massive contract extension with the Red Sox 2 weeks ago. He is our ace. He is our pig. He is our Game 1 of the World Series, Game 7 of the World Series, winner-take-all type ace. What does he do? Exactly what he's paid to do. He absolutely shoved it right up the White Sox butt. Now, if you go back and listen to last week's episode, I made mention that this is the first time that Garrett Crochet is facing his former team, and he is facing them in Chicago. I made the prediction that Garrett Crochet was going to have a no-hitter during this game. I was 2.5 innings away from that prediction coming true. He carried a no-hitter into the 7th inning. And let me get his exact stats, actually. Damn it. Hold on. So he pitched 7 innings. Sorry, I was at work when the game happened, so I'm trying to, I was listening to it, but, Garrett Crochet, 7 innings, or 7.1 innings, 7 innings and a third, 1 hit, 1 earned run, run walk, 11 strikeouts. He shoved it right up the White Sox butt. And the entire game, because I went back and I looked at the highlights, they could not touch him. Not once. Not to save their lives. Not his off-speed, not his cutter, not his sweeper, not his fastball. Nothing was getting by them. Garrett Whitlock comes in, gets him out of a small jam. Aroldis Chapman closes the door for the save in the 9th. The thing that stood out the most about this game, aside from Garrett Crochet absolutely doo-dooing all over the Chicago White Sox, is that this was arguably the best moment of Trevor Story's Red Sox career. Not a single person on the Red Sox, not Jarren Duran, not Devers, not Bregman, nobody else got an RBI in today's game outside of Trevor Story. Trevor Story, in 4 at-bats, had 3 hits, 3 RBIs, and 1 home run. The 1 home run was a solo shot. That ball was absolutely demolished. And they threw him an off-speed sweeper in the upper part of the plate that looked like I threw that damn thing. And it looked like that home run at Fenway probably would have landed 5 parking spaces deep into Lansdowne Street. But nobody else on the team did anything. I mean, we have hits from Duran, Bregman, Casas got a hit, got a walk. Christian Campbell, Carlos Narvaez didn't do shit at the plate. Sadan got 1 hit. Devers, nothing. So the fact that our entire offense came from Trevor Story is huge, because Trevor Story is a really hot topic when it comes to the Red Sox, because he simply hasn't been available. He's been injured, and when he isn't injured, he hasn't been good. He had 1 good stretch in 2023, and that was for about a week. And after that, he disappeared. And then most of last season, he was hurt. He had 2 home runs the entire season, and now he has already doubled his total from the previous season. So if the Red Sox can count on Trevor Story being half of the player he once was in Colorado, we're in really good shape offensively. Because if Trevor Story's batting in the 5 spot, and he's making up for Ceddanne Rafaela barely batting over 200, then the lineup can really balance itself out. Now, overall, there's not a real whole lot to be positive about this week. You have the Story walk-off against the Blue Jays. Combine that with his 1 home run, 3 RBI performance in today's game. I mean, he arguably is the best player to come out of this week. And I'm just going to play the quick audio from his walk-off, because I love Dave O'Brien, but you could even tell from his tone that, like, wow, the Red Sox were just gifted a home run. So take a listen to his call.
2. Little dribbler on the infield. And then into the bottle. And the Red Sox get the run. And the Sox have won it. A Gold Glover at second base, and he muffed it. And the Red Sox win the game 4-3. Boy, did they need that. And isn't that just...
Yeah, so you could tell pretty clearly from the tone of his voice. He was like, oh, and Jimenez muffs it. And they score the run, and the Red Sox win the game. And Jimenez is a Gold Glover who muffs the ball. It's like he expected Andres Jimenez, along with the rest of the crowd at Fenway, trust me, that inning was going to end without the Red Sox scoring. Because that entire game, the Red Sox did not prove that they were ready or capable of scoring runs. So you could just kind of tell from his voice that that's kind of like just the mood from that game. The low light of the week is basically any other game besides today and Thursday. And if you combine, like I said, Friday and Saturday's loss, I mean, it's the worst team in baseball. You should be able to run laps around this team. Many people were arguing last year that, like, most organizations' AAA teams were better than the Chicago White Sox Major League team. And the fact that you let them double their win count from prior to the series starting to after is really freaking embarrassing. So, leading into the next segment, we are looking at the American League, and specifically the American League East, and I'll kind of dabble into a couple of other teams. Right now, the Red Sox are in third place, which is where we finished last season. Now, as I've said, we have won the exact same amount of games that we have lost, 5. So we are 5-5 in our last 10. Believe it or not, so is everybody else in the division who matters, in my opinion. The Toronto Blue Jays are 5-5 in their last 10, and the New York Yankees are 5-5 in their last 10. The Toronto Blue Jays, you can make an argument with me, have been playing very good baseball. Now, obviously, they won the series against the Red Sox this past week. I would make the argument if you have Crochet pitch against them, they don't win the series, but hey, what can you do? The New York Yankees are a fraudulent baseball team, and that's not even my Red Sox bias. That is their pitching staff being absolutely dog shit. And guess who said that their pitching staff was dog shit before the season started? They have Max Fried and nobody else. I mean, Max Fried cannot pitch every single day. Garrett Crochet cannot pitch every single day. But when you have Marcus Stroman having an above 11 ERA through 3 starts, I don't know what to tell you. The one thing that sticks out among the American League East is the fact that the Yankees have a run differential of plus 18, and they are 1 game above 500. So when they lose games, they are losing close games, but when they win games, they are blowing teams apart. Now that run differential, that plus 18, honestly stems from the Brewers series to start the season. So I kind of view that as a fraudulent plus 18. Now, the Toronto Blue Jays are in first place. They are 9-7. The New York Yankees are 8-7. So the Yankees are a half game behind the Toronto Blue Jays. The Boston Red Sox are 1.5 games behind the Blue Jays and 1 game behind the Yankees. We are 8-9. We are under 500. Again, last year, we were teetering around 500 or under 500 for the later half of the season, and I'm begging that not to happen again. The Tampa Bay Rays have not been playing good baseball. They are 3-7 in their last 10, and they have a positive run differential of 3. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that series next because that's going to be the next segment. The Baltimore Orioles are basically in the same situation as the New York Yankees. Their rotation is worse than the New York Yankees, and the New York Yankees rotation isn't a full Major League rotation. The Baltimore Orioles, A, have a hard time scoring runs, and B, have a hard time stopping runs. The Baltimore Orioles have scored 66 runs and have allowed 72 runs to score. So not only can they not score runs, they also have a very hard time preventing the runs from scoring. Now, one thing that stands out about the Boston Red Sox, when you look at their run differential, it's 0, which is mid. Again, we have scored the second most runs in the American League East at 77. We have also allowed the second. We're actually tied for first in most runs allowed in the American League East at 77, making us 0. So simply put, our pitching hasn't been good enough, and that's more so our starting pitching, not necessarily our bullpen. Our bullpen has been basically like our lifeline, but when you let the White Sox score 11 runs on you, it's kind of hard to have a positive run differential. Now, when you look outside of the American League East, most of the other American League teams are kind of sitting around the same spot that the Red Sox are. That is the only reason why I am not freaking out about the Red Sox start up until this point. The Detroit Tigers are in first place. They are 9-6. The Los Angeles Angels somehow, mainly because Mike Trout has been absolutely AWOL since the beginning of the season, they are in first place with 9-6. So right now, you can make the argument with me that the Red Sox are still one of the better teams in the American League, but since the beginning of the season, there hasn't been a superstar team that has basically just started off insanely hot. I can't say the same thing for the National League. Now, I'm not going to highlight much of the National League outside of the National League West, because the National League West is simply unfair. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 9-7. They would be first in the division in basically every American League team, and they're fourth in their own division. Let me read you this division really quick. San Diego Padres, of all teams, after not really spending a lot of money in the offseason, are in first place. They are 13-3 with a positive run differential of plus 30. They are 7-3 in their last 10 and in the middle of a 4-game winning streak. The San Francisco Giants, again, not a team that spent a lot of money. They are 11-4, 7-3 in their last 10, with a positive run differential of plus 23. The Dodgers, with all of that money they spent, all of those all-stars, I mean, if you look at their starting rotation, they have 12 all-star starters. They're 11-5. They are 5-5 in their last 10, and they have lost basically 2 in a row. They only have a positive run differential of 2. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 9-7. They are 5-5 in their last 10, with in the middle of a 2-game winning streak. The Colorado Rockies are in last place. They are 3-12, worst team in baseball up until this point, with a negative run differential of minus 44. Now, one interesting note about run differentials that I just noticed looking at this is the American League Central and the American League West, between those 10 teams, have 2 teams with positive run differentials. In the American League Central, the only team with a positive run differential is the Detroit Tigers, who are 9-6, positive run differential of plus 15. Everybody else, including the Cleveland Guardians, have a negative run differential. The Cleveland Guardians are 8-7 with a negative 2 run differential. This one really sticks out to me. The American League West, the only team with a positive run differential is the team in 4th place, the Houston Astros, with a positive run differential of 2. The Angels have a minus 3 run differential, and the Texas Rangers are at minus 19. So, it's just the landscape right now of not only the American League but the National League is in a very weird spot, and that is the only reason why I am not worried about this start by the Red Sox. Now, if the Detroit Tigers won 13 of their first 15 games, then I would be concerned, because then I would be saying, okay, there goes the 1 seed, now we're talking about wild card. If the Toronto Blue Jays continue to do this well, win 12 of their next 15, then we can have that discussion of, oh my God, where does this put the Red Sox in the postseason? I'm not worried about the New York Yankees. Maybe they can make it to the wild card, but with that dreadful starting rotation, no Giancarlo Stanton, you have no protection around Aaron Judge. It doesn't scare me. Like, it genuinely doesn't. And because of that, it's preventing me from having a doom and gloom type of podcast prediction. Now, one of the other reasons why there is some hope that we have as Red Sox fans is our farm system, and mainly Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and our pitching depth. Now, the Red Sox did trade Quinn Priester for a very young, pretty decent player. We also we did some like really weird things with that trade, so good job, Breslow, cook, chef. But it's kind of complicated, and this is a casual podcast, so I'm not going to break down the specifics of it. But we traded somebody who has pitched in the major leagues, and we saw Hunter Dobbins pitch this past week, and we're like, Quinn, we don't need you. We're going to go get some outfield depth, some speed. And as soon as that player made it to Portland, he started hitting very well. So Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer are not performing like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. They're kind of off to slow starts. Roman Anthony more so than Marcelo Meyer. Meyer looks pretty good defensively. He's got a lot of clutch hits, but he does have a lot of swing and miss in his game. One thing that Roman Anthony is doing very, very well that other players in the organization, including the 26-man roster, can't necessarily say, is he is walking a lot. Let me look at the stats again really quick. Please load. Of course. It's not going to... Here we go. Okay. So they have played in 12 games. Right now, the leading offensive player for the Worcester Red Sox, or Woo Sox, is Nate Eaton, center fielder. He's batting .310 in 12 games with an on-base percentage of .370. But Roman Anthony is batting .256. Like I said, he's got a lot of swing and miss in his game. He is second on the team in strikeouts with 15. Now, he is leading the team in walks with 10. He has 1 stolen base. He has been caught stealing once. He has a OPS of 888, which is still fantastic. I'm sorry, 884. But he's got an average of 256, so he's not necessarily hitting the piss out of the ball. He has 2 home runs, so he is tied, 3-way tie for first place in home runs, but when it's only 2, it's like big whoop. 7 RBIs, so he's not even first place on the team in RBIs. Thankfully, he's not hitting the piss out of the ball because that would put the Red Sox in a really tough situation, especially with our already crowded outfield. Now, Vaughn Grissom, who has been getting a lot of time at first base, keep in mind, is hitting .295, on-base percentage of .367, OPS of .799. He has 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, fifth in the team in strikeouts with 13, only 5 walks, 1 stolen base. So he's getting on base at a pretty good rate, but he's striking out a lot. Now, Marcelo Meyer, he's leading the team in RBIs, but he also is basically bottom barrel of the team in average, OPS, slugging, and OPS. His average is 200 exactly. On-base percentage of .234. Now, that's kind of indicative of his 2 walks and 11 strikeouts. Slugging percentage of .333 for an OPS of .567. So he's not hitting the cover off the ball, and he's not getting on base. The 2 things that you need to have on the team. Unfortunately, my hopeful coming out of spring training was that Trace Thompson was going to be that awesome outfield depth that this team needed. Well, he's hitting .222 with a on-base percentage of .271, slugging .400. OPS of .671. So pretty shitty, if you ask me. Not really great. Now, pitching-wise, our depth. This is kind of like the highlight of the team. Now, as I will get to in later in the show, I'm kind of going to briefly highlight, maybe jump ahead a little bit. Richard Fitz, unfortunately, looks like he either tore or strained a pectoral muscle in Saturday's loss. So Michael Fulmer is getting called up from AAA Worcester. In 3 games, he is 0-2, but with a 3.09 ERA in 11.2 innings. He has allowed 7 hits, 6 runs, 4 earned, 1 homer, 6 walks, 18 strikeouts. He leads the team in strikeouts. Now, Michael Fulmer used to be an all-star, so he should lead the team in Worcester in strikeouts. There's a lot of other awesome performances. Shane Drohan, in 3 games, 9 innings pitched, he has an ERA of sub-1. It's .93. 16 strikeouts, a whip of 103, only allowing a 147 average. Now, a couple of players to highlight, in particular, Brian Bayo, who is coming off of rehab assignments. Brian Bayo, in 3 games, He's got an ERA of 6.52. I'm not too concerned with it because they are working through some things with his arsenal. Sorry about the hiccups. But overall, our pitching hasn't been, like, phenomenal. Honestly, you can make the argument with me that our pitching has kind of been, like, really crappy. In 3.1 innings, Isaiah Campbell has a 13.50 ERA. One good thing is that Lucas Giolito in 5 innings has a 1.59 ERA. He should be getting the call up along with Brian Bayo relatively soon. I think they said Bayo has one more rehab start, and I think Lucas Giolito might be getting the call up for the Rays series. So keep an eye out for the both of them. We also made a random minor league signing in the middle of Thursday's game that caught me completely by surprise, and it also showed me that the injury to Connor Wong is a lot more severe than it is. So before I get into who we signed, really quick injury note about Connor Wong. If you didn't watch the game, he was catching, and he stuck his hand out too far in front of the plate, and the person who was batting smacked his hand before hitting the ball. Now, most Major League Baseball players are swinging the bat at a very high speed, usually at 65 to 75 miles per hour. Well, those baseball bats are pretty heavy. They're usually 32 to 35 ounces in weight. Getting hit with one of those can easily bust your hand, and that's exactly what happened to Connor Wong. And the moment I saw him take his glove off and I saw how yellow his hand was turning, I knew that there was something wrong. Now, the reason why I knew that there was something wrong is because 2 years ago, I broke my right hand. I broke my pinky, fractured this bone in my hand. And when I keep my hand up straight, I don't know if you can see that, but my pinky knuckle is down here. So it didn't heal right. That's my own fault. The moment I saw that injury, I was like, he's going to be done for a couple of months. Because when I broke my hand, it took 2.5 months for me to feel even close to 100% again. So when the Red Sox went out and signed Yasmani Grandal, of all available catchers, to a minor league contract, I was like, oh God. Because Yasmani Grandal is a two-time All-Star. However, he is a 2-time All-Star because of his offensive capabilities. He is not a 2-time All-Star because of his backstop abilities. He has a very slow pop time and pretty crappy arm strength. And he also has a very, very high strikeout rating. Now, if you're a fan of MLB The Show, you also know that he is very slow. He is one of only a handful of players with 0 speed. So he has no defensive tool, no base running tool, and he's subpar offensively. So I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the person that replaces Connor Wong. Now, Carlos Narvaez has basically been thrusted into a starting role. So catcher is going to be a position that, in my opinion, we are going to have to invest in at the deadline. So I genuinely think that the signing of Yasmani Grandal tells me, A, that Connor Wong is going to take at least a month to come back, and B, the Red Sox have no idea who they are as a team at this moment. Now, moving on to our next segment, our History Minute, I was able to find a really fascinating website that keeps track of all of the really important information on every specific day in Red Sox history. So today's History Minute is April 13th. In 1997, Will Cordero became the first Red Sox player to homer off of the newly installed Coke bottles over the Green Monster. If you're a modern-day fan and you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, look up Fenway Park in 2004. When I tell you, because my first memories as a very, very young child was the Coke bottles in the Monster, or hanging off or next to the Monster, it adds one extra element to the atmosphere that is already amazing in Fenway Park. Now, the Coke bottles were expensive to operate, but they were these massive 65-foot tall Coke bottles that would hang off of the light towers on the Green Monster, and they just added that chef's kiss to Fenway Park. I would love for the Red Sox to bring those back, but I don't think they're going to. Now, after all of that loss, all of that negativity, where do we go moving forward? Well, we play the Rays in a 3-game series on the road. And I can't even say it's at Tropicana Field because it's not. If you aren't familiar with the situation that happened to Tropicana Field, the field was basically destroyed in a hurricane, and the Rays are forced to play in Steinbrenner Field, which is basically the Yankees' spring training facility. So we are immediately in... This is going to have a role to play in my predictions for this week. We are going from Chicago to Fort Lauderdale, or to Fort Myers, or some part of Florida, to play the Rays. We have a 3-game series. Every single game starts at 7:05. Then we have an off day on Thursday. A much-needed off day because our last off day was April 1st. April Fool's joke, basically. After that 3-game series and an off day on Thursday, we face the White Sox again at home. So, this week goes the following. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we play the Rays. Off day on Thursday, then we have the White Sox and a 3-game series at home. 4-game series at home. We face them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, April 21st. Shout out to my dad. It's his birthday on Monday, so shout out to you. That is Patriots Day. We play them at 11:10. Now, let me just double check really quick, because when I checked last night, the Red Sox did not announce who was going to be starting for most of the series, and that is still the case. So we know who is pitching tomorrow. Monday, April 14th, we have Tanner Houck, who is 0-1 with a 4.41 ERA and 10 strikeouts, going up against Shane Baz, who is 1-0 with a 1.38 ERA and 16 strikeouts. Tanner Houck looked phenomenal the last time he pitched. The Tampa Bay Rays do not have a sustainable offense. So maybe this is the Tanner Houck redemption game, or this is the game where the Rays shit all over Tanner Houck. There's no in between. It's either he pitches lights out or he doesn't have any control of the strike zone. The thing that scares me is that Shane Baz has 16 strikeouts. The Red Sox strike out a lot. So there's a chance that the Red Sox offense is dead again. Walker Buehler versus Ryan Pepiot is scheduled for Tuesday, April 15th. Walker Buehler is 1-1 with a 5.74 ERA. Now, I will say that 5.74 ERA really is not indicative of how well he has been pitching recently. That is more so how bad he started the season. Ryan Pepiot is 1-1 with a 3.38 ERA and 16 strikeouts. So the middle game is kind of going to be all determined on how well Walker Buehler pitches. Now, usually, Game 4 is supposed to be Dick Fitz. However, because Dick Fitz is hurt, it's most likely going to be Michael Fulmer. What I'm hoping it's not is a bullpen game, because we cannot afford to have one of those this early in the season. Now, I do know who we are going against, and it is Zach Littell, who was a former Red Sox farmhand who loves to shove every time he plays the Red Sox. This season, so far, he is 0-3 with a 6.88 ERA and 14 strikeouts. So that Rays series is really going to be determined by how our pitching staff does. If I'm going to make a prediction on that series, I think we lose the Houck game. I think Baz shoves it right up our butts, and then we win the following two. I think we go into our home, the game on Friday against the White Sox, in the middle of a 2-game winning streak. I think we are going to get our doors blown off on Monday, especially coming out of that White Sox series. So I have us losing on Monday, winning on Tuesday, winning on Wednesday. Friday is going to be rough because we are probably going to have Sean Newcomb. It's either going to be Sean Newcomb, Lucas Giolito, or Brian Bayo for that game. Right now, nobody has decided who is going to be the opening day starter. And then I think is going to recycle the rotation again. So on Saturday, it should be Garrett Crochet, barring some sort of catastrophic injury, and then Tanner Houck, Walker Buehler, and then so on and so forth. So I can really only make a prediction about the first games against the Rays. And again, I have them losing on Monday, winning on Tuesday, winning on Wednesday. I do have us winning the first two against the White Sox, and then I think we're going to lose on Sunday, and then we are going to win on Patriots Day, because the Patriots Day atmosphere in Boston is always special. Now, that kind of wraps up any sort of like pressing news. The injury update, though, I do want to get to that. I've kind of already gone over it, though, just to be clear. Richard Fitz is probably going to be done for most of the next couple of months. Originally, it was said to be a shoulder injury, but it was actually a pectoral muscle strain. Now, that is basically your boob, and it was his right throwing boob. So that is going to be a while for him to come back from. Connor Wong, again, they haven't given him a timetable yet, and you're probably not going to see one for the next couple of weeks. I honestly want to say don't expect to see him until at least the end of May. Bayo Giolito, hoping to be coming back soon, probably within the next couple of weeks. Now, I do have some final thoughts and a couple of baseball Red Sox notes to go over. And while I have the schedule up, it's going to lead me into a take that has been kind of boiling over the last couple of weeks. Couple of days. I chalked up the White Sox to be automatic wins, and I obviously can no longer do that. When you look at the remaining schedule that we have until the All-Star break, it's kind of brutal. We have the Mariners at home, the Guardians on the road, then we have the Blue Jays, right? The Twins, who are not playing good baseball, but then we basically play like playoff hopeful teams for the remainder of the season until the All-Star break. Let me just list off some of these teams. So, just to recap, we have the White Sox, not playoff team, but clearly I can't chalk those wins up. The Mariners, playoff hopefuls. The Guardians in first place. The Blue Jays in first place. The Twins in last place, we can have that discussion. The Rangers in second place. The Royals are playoff hopefuls. The Tigers are in first place. The Braves basically have a super team. The Mets just signed Juan Soto. They are in the upper part of their division. The Orioles, playoff hopefuls. The Brewers, playoff hopefuls. The Braves again. I've now gotten to June. The Angels, the Yankees, the Rays. The Yankees again, the Mariners, the Giants, the Angels, the Blue Jays. You don't face, like, scrub teams until July 1st. Reds, Nationals, Rockies. Like, you can kind of count on at least 7 to 10 wins between the first and third week of July. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wins against 4 pretty shitty teams between the Reds, the Nationals, the Rockies, and the Rays. After that, Cubs, Phillies, Dodgers. So it's like, I want to be optimistic about this team, but when you look at their schedule, you're like, where are we getting these 90 wins from? When are they coming? Because I don't have us winning more than 7 games in a row until July 1st. And you can't win 90 to 95 games with only having a 7-game winning streak coming in the middle of July. It's not possible. So when you look at our schedule, I mean, you could make the argument that the Red Sox have one of the hardest schedules in baseball. And if we want to play October baseball, we need to do better. Plain and simple. Now, to get to the rest of my takes that have been kind of brewing, I watched all of the Clubhouse series. And boy, did I forget how disappointing last season was. Now, with all of the injuries, Lucas Giolito, the list goes on, Trevor Story, Tristan Casas, the fact that we finished 500, as Breslow said in the end of that documentary, is indicative of how hard we fought the entire season. Some players. Kenley Jansen is not one of those players. One of the biggest moments that stood out to me outside of the in-depth conversation that Jarren Duran had about his mental health was the fact that Jarren Duran, in a essentially win-or-go-home series against the Twins, begged Kenley Jansen to get his ass out of a bath and into the dugout to show his face and really rally the crowd. Now, Kenley Jansen was one of the leaders of this team last year. The fact that Jarren Duran went into the clubhouse, begged him to come out, and was told no, I think is indicative of not only the player that Kenley Jansen is, but also the person that he is too. I was never a fan of Kenley Jansen. I always saw him as a bum, and I think that move, that refusal to rally the crowd, really kind of summed up the kind of player he is. I thought that Tristan Casas, if you didn't like him going into the documentary, you are going to hate him coming out of it. If you like Tristan Casas for all of his weird tendencies, you're going to like him even more. And I've heard that take kind of thrown out a lot on Twitter, on social media, and other places. But by far, the most heart-wrenching part of that documentary was listening to Jarren Duran explain that in 2022 he attempted to commit suicide. And I'm going to try and get through my thoughts on this without crying, because as somebody who has struggled with their own mental health difficulties and situations pretty similar to his, mental health is not something to joke around with, and the fact that he had enough courage and enough strength to really bring the situation up with the directors of the Netflix documentary, I think goes to show you how powerful of a person Duran is on the field and also off the field. So, again, if you weren't made aware, in 2022, Jarren Duran debuted with the Boston Red. Well, he debuted in 2021 and struggled mightily in 2022. He was really bad. And something that baseball fans don't like doing is keeping the heckling to on-the-field stuff. And people in 2022 were essentially bullying Jarren Duran for having anxiety, mental health issues, and he was getting text messages to kill himself, X, Y, and Z. And Jarren Duran admitted that after the Toronto Blue Jays' embarrassing 28-5 loss, he contemplated suicide, he loaded a rifle, and he pulled the trigger. And to God's great power, Jarren Duran is thankfully still with us. As according to Jarren Duran, the gun didn't go off. And thank God that gun did not go off, because I don't know where the Red Sox would be as an organization without Jarren Duran on the team, and I don't know where we would be as fans or as baseball fans without Jarren Duran on the team. So if you out there, any of my listeners, are somebody who is struggling with mental health, you don't think that you are worth anything, you think that the fight is too hard and you can't do it, believe me when I tell you that you can. Reach out, get help. Getting help was the only thing that helped me. Duran got help, and he has inspired more people to get help with coming out with explaining his struggles with mental health. So it's not something to take lightly. And if you are a baseball fan, I am going to ask you, and I'm going to beg you, keep baseball baseball. Keep the off-the-field stuff to yourself. You never, ever, ever bully somebody. You never heckle or harass somebody over their mental health, because you don't know the struggles that somebody faces off the field. When you look at Jarren Duran from 2022, you can tell that he's dissociated, he's disconnected from the team, but you couldn't tell that he was fighting for his life on the field and off the field. And as he said, baseball is a very lonely sport to play. You feel like you are out on an island on your own, and when you play as badly as he did and you have people texting you every night telling you to kill yourself, X, Y, and Z, things like that will happen. So I can't be more than grateful for Jarren Duran explaining that story, begging people to get help, and I can't thank God enough for keeping him on this planet and allowing him to tell us that story. So I apologize if I got a little emotional there. Mental health is just something that I take pretty personally. And he inspired me so much so that when I went to the game on Thursday, I created a beautiful sign for him. If you were one of those individuals who came by and took a picture of it, awesome. Spread the message. It simply said, thank you for staying with us, Jarren. We love you. And I know you don't listen to this, but Jarren Duran, we do love you, so thank you for staying with us. Now, 2 final Red Sox notes before I end this, because I do have responsibilities I have to take care of. Our offensive hitting approach systemically is terrible. In the big leagues, and I think it's more indicative of the big leagues itself, we are either striking out or we are getting on base. There's no putting balls in play there's no putting balls into play anymore. There's no positive outs, meaning that your out is advancing a runner. We're simply striking out way too much. We are leading the team in strikeouts. We are leading the league in strikeouts, and it's simply just not good enough. And that I genuinely think is indicative of not only just baseball, but also our organization as a whole, not really incentivizing contact, making contact into places where baseball players are not, like hitting in between first and second base instead of right at people. The last thing, if you were not made aware, somebody leaked the City Connect uniforms, and I'm not happy about it because I hate when people leak information like that, but I'm more so not happy about it because of how terrible they looked. Now, if you haven't seen them, they are Green Monster Green, which is exactly what was the original report, and that's all they are, is Green Monster Green. Imagine this jersey I'm wearing right now, all dark green, except the lettering in the middle is Red Sox, like the lettering on the Green Monster. There is absolutely no sort of fun graphic on it. It's literally all green, Red Sox in big-ass white letters, the same exact letters that are on the wall, and that's it. And I'm going to retweet the picture after this episode, but they are hideous. And I'm praying that the leak isn't true. However, this person has leaked every single City Connect uniform since 2022, so that's probably the City Connect uniforms. So I covered a lot of stuff. I'm hoping that the Red Sox turn things around because based off of the schedule that we have going forward, we desperately need to score a lot of runs, and we need to score a lot of runs relatively soon. Because we are running out of winnable games. Because we have a very difficult schedule, and after the ending of this month, we are basically playing playoff teams every series until the All-Star break. So I'm hoping that the Red Sox turn it around, and if they don't, I will be here to shit on them, and if they do turn it around, I will be there to hype them up, because that is the kind of fan that I am. So I know I've been talking for a long time. I'm looking at the time now. It's been like an hour and 10 minutes. I'm so sorry. I thank you so much for staying this far if you have. And I look forward to this week, and go Sox.